In all of Trump's craziness, it seems as though Florida is doing a little bit of government efficiency behind closed doors. So apparently on February 24th, 2025, Ron DeSantis announced that Florida was going to get their own Doge at the state level and go looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. So here it says today, Governor Ron DeSantis announced the creation of the Florida State Department of Governmental Efficiency Task Force, which will work to further eliminate waste within state government, save taxpayers' money, and ensure accountability in Florida. So they're basically doing a little mini version of what Elon Musk did, and we saw how that turned out. Let's continue. Florida has set the standard for fiscally conservative governance, and our new Florida Doge task force will do even more to serve the people of Florida, said Governor Ron DeSantis. It will eliminate redundant boards and commissions, review state, university, and college operations and spending, utilize artificial intelligence to further examine state agencies to uncover hidden waste, and even audit the spending habits of local entities to shine the light on waste and bloat. Under Ron DeSantis' leadership, Florida has the lowest number of government workers per capita in the country, yet provides better services at a lower cost than any other state of comparable size. I'm not sure who this is based on, but let's go ahead and see if they have the numbers. Since Governor DeSantis took office in 2019, Florida has continually cut government and trimmed waste. Florida has eliminated dozens of unnecessary boards and lifted needless regulations. We've saved billions from Floridians year after year, including $3.5 billion in spending last year. Florida has paid down 41% of state debt and increased our rainy day funds by over $9.4 billion. So let's see, as we continue to read this article, if DeSantis will explain where all these savings are going. Because last time I checked, Musk wasn't able to answer that question. He never provided actual receipts of the fraud, waste, and abuse that he claimed to find, and he never explained where the money is going. All this savings that you're getting for us, old co-president Musk, thank you so much. Now, show us the money. They floated the idea of paying us Doge stimulus checks, but we haven't heard anything about them since, and it's been months. And let me tell you this, I never really had a whole lot of faith those checks were going to be ever coming through. So let's go ahead and see what DeSantis has got going on in Florida, because he's saving so much money. He must be investing in all this wonderfulness of Florida because it's still the taxpayers' dollars that he's saving. So let's find out what's happening in Florida. So the Florida State Doge Task Force will implement a multi-pronged approach to eliminating bureaucratic bloat and modernizing our state government to best serve the people of Florida. It will also utilize AI and new technologies to identify waste and non-compliance. The task force will serve a one-year term, which will sunset following the completion of the term. Florida's Doge will 1. Eliminate bureaucracy. Florida will abolish an additional 70 boards and commissions this year. And we have no clue what those 70 boards and commissions do. But now we know they're gone. So whatever they were doing, that task will no longer get done. Next, review colleges and universities. Florida will conduct a deep dive into all facets of college and university operations and spending and make recommendations to the Board of Governors and State Board of Education to eliminate any wasteful spending. Further, examine state agencies. Florida will utilize AI to supplement ongoing efforts to review operations at our state agencies and identify more ways to cut unnecessary spending and eliminate bureaucracy. Next, audit local governments. State task force will look into local government expenditures by utilizing publicly available county and municipal spending records to expose bloat within local governance. And lastly, return unused and surplus federal dollars. Florida will aid DOJ's federal efforts to save taxpayers money by returning unused or surplus federal dollars allocated to the state. But I'm now wondering, what are they going to do with the state taxes? You only talked about what you were going to do with the federal dollars, DeSantis. So let's go ahead and see what's going on and how all this waste, fraud, and abuse and getting rid of all this governance bloat has been going for Florida. Oh, let's go looking for receipts. So here's where the $878 million in federal funds DeSantis quote unquote returned came from. On Friday, Florida Governor DeSantis touted the return of millions of dollars in federal funding after meeting with Elon Musk and members of the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE. A newly obtained document is shedding some light on where the more than $878 million came from. DOGE was formed by Donald Trump after taking office in January with the task of reducing government spending. Even though Trump and his administration, I think Trump alone, but it could be including his administration, have spent more than Biden spent at the same time. So how are you reducing government spending when you're spending more than the previous president? Make it make sense. Unofficially led by Musk, the world's richest man and an advisor to Trump, DOGE has made drastic cuts to government jobs and other spending when I thought Trump was bringing back jobs. It's kind of hard to be bringing back jobs and getting rid of jobs at the same time. Almost seems like it defeats the purpose or cancels each other out. So DeSantis, who has shown support for the DOGE effort, met with Musk on Friday because I guess DeSantis is wondering how can he get his money on some funds. And here it says, for years, Florida has been trying to return federal funds to the federal government due to the ideological strings attached by the Biden administration, but they couldn't figure out how to accept it. So today he had met with Elon Musk when he posted that Twitter or tweet or whatever and the DOGE team, and they got it done in the same day. Wow. So, at the direction of DeSantis and following his meeting with Musk, the state of Florida is finally returning $878 million, rounding it off. And let's see where they're getting it from. Full letter shows funding came from state's transportation, children, and family departments. Isn't that funsies? So you snatched money from state's transportation, children, and family departments. $557 million returned from those agencies. The full letter obtained by First Coast News showed that a majority of the money came from a grant awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for refugee social services. The letter asked the HHS to confirm the return of $557 million from the Florida Department of Children and Families, which oversees the services. The program seeks to assist refugees adjusting to life in the United States by providing things like medical assistance, benefits, legal document assistance, and English learning services, according to FDCF's website. The website states that Florida has the largest refugee program in the nation, estimating more than 5,000 refugees, which is including asylees and Cuban Haitian entrants, arriving each year. All clients of the program have legal immigration status, the website states. So these are people who are here legally and they have just lost all these benefits. Then you go to Florida Department of Transportation, $320 million coming from Department of Education, $320 million returned from the Florida Department of Transportation was funding DeSantis. So it was rejected by the agency in December 2023 for a carbon reduction program. So apparently DeSantis wants to put more carbon into the air so that we can all die from carbon smoke inhaling into our lungs. The program unlocks $6.4 billion in funding for states over 5 years to develop carbon reduction strategies and address climate change. DeSantis strongly opposed the intention of the funds, subsequently refusing them altogether. Since that time, FDOT has yet to receive confirmation from the U.S. Department of Transportation, USDOT, that the allocated funds have been formally withheld by U.S. DOT to ensure savings are returned to the federal government. The letter states that $49 million of the funding was returned via wire on Friday. Then $271 million of allocated authority, which is funding not yet reimbursed to the state, will be withheld from future projects and will be returned to the federal government, the letter says, but it hasn't been returned yet. So here we are with a developing political scandal in Florida that has Ron DeSantis on the defensive. So Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is on the defensive over questions about how $10 million in state money came to be used to fund a political campaign. In 2 terms as governor, DeSantis has enjoyed strong support from the Republican-controlled legislature, but now Republicans in the state House of Representatives say the alleged misuse of funds may warrant a criminal investigation. So interesting, because I thought that Ron DeSantis was using Doge to get rid of governing bloat and bloat governance and waste, fraud, and abuse. But it seems like he's pocketed some money for himself. So it says allegations involve $10 million that was paid to Florida by Centene, a company that provides managed care to Medicaid recipients. The money was part of a $67 million settlement by the company after it was charged with overbilling taxpayers for medications. $10 million of the settlement was paid directly to a nonprofit group called Hope Florida. That's a charity founded by Governor DeSantis' wife, Casey, to help people move off governor assistance into community-based programs. An investigation by state lawmakers found that after receiving it, Hope Florida transferred the $10 million to 2 quote-unquote dark money political groups that aren't required to disclose their donors. The 2 groups then sent some $8.5 million to a political committee that was campaigning against an amendment to legalize recreational marijuana in the state. It was a group controlled by DeSantis' then chief of staff, now Florida Attorney General, James Othmeyer, just crooked to the core. So Republican lawmakers, including Representative Alex Andrade, say they believe that that transaction was illegal. At a hearing of the healthcare at a hearing of the healthcare subcommittee in Florida's House of Representatives, Andrade said, "There's no question that these were Medicaid funds steered by the governor's chief of staff through secret and clandestine actions to his own political committee." The investigation in the Florida House didn't target DeSantis directly, but the political campaign to defeat the marijuana initiative, which successfully scuttled the amendment, was led by DeSantis. Since these allegations, DeSantis has denied any wrongdoing by his administration. He's fought back in a series of news conferences where he's attacked the news media and Republican lawmakers. The whole thing that the House leadership is doing is a manufactured fraud, DeSantis said at a restaurant appearance in Fort Myers. This is a hoax. Everything's a hoax for them. They are trying to smear one of the most successful programs anywhere in the country, which I've never heard that before in my life. And among the many issues lawmakers are angry about is that the DeSantis administration didn't tell Florida's legislators about the $67 million settlement or about the $10 million that went directly to a charity overseen by DeSantis' wife. The investigation is the most visible indication of a growing rift between DeSantis and Republican leaders in the legislature. State House Speaker Daniel Perez recently responded to the governor's attack, calling it a temper tantrum, saying the House will not be bullied. According to the House investigation, Othmeyer was the person who initiated the plan to divert some of the settlement money to groups campaigning against the marijuana against the marijuana referendum. At the time, he was DeSantis' chief of staff. In February, months after these events occurred, DeSantis appointed Othmeyer Attorney General to replace Ashley Moody. DeSantis named Moody to the U.S. Senate to fill out Marco Rubio's term after Rubio was appointed Secretary of State by Trump. And Othmeyer denies allegations that he was the mastermind behind the deal. "I was not involved in the settlement negotiations related to the Hope Florida contribution," he says. "Looking at it, nothing looks legal." Uthmeyer says that $10 million that went to the dark money groups wasn't Medicaid money. He called it a sweetener, money called added by Centene. Okay. What? He called it a sweetener, money added by Centene on top of the larger medical settlement. Representative Andre says that it's a legalistic argument and he isn't buying it. $10 million is a lot of money, he says. In the real world, if someone defrauded the state or a charity or $10 million, they would go to prison. And Johnny says he's concluded his investigation and it's up to federal prosecutors to decide whether to pursue criminal charges. He says he's spoken to the Department of Justice. The U.S. Attorney in Florida's Northern District declined to comment. Even if there are no criminal charges, one person marked by this investigation is Casey DeSantis. She's been making appearances around the state with her husband and appears to be preparing her own bid to run for governor. Sorry, I can't say that. I had to eat something first. Trump has already endorsed a candidate in the race, Republican Congressman Byron Donalds, who was getting booed at his last town hall. So let me know what you all think. Sounds like DeSantis is on the take and that he is working to get some money for himself while others are stupidly saying whatever they're saying. And that is it. Thanks for watching and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.